to any topic at all around coaching, your host for this next session generally won't stop talking. Such is his passion for both the science and the art of this practice. So today he has invited some others to join him in discussion around coaching in the context of the changing workplace. So John Raymond, welcome, and please introduce yourself and your panel.
Tony, thank you very much. John Raymond is my name. My role is Head of Regional Development and based in Singapore. And today is my 3-year anniversary of being in Singapore. So it's very exciting. I'd like to quickly introduce my 3 guests here. And they come from 3 different countries, 3 areas that IECL operates in. We've worked with all of them in various capacities. But the reason that they're on the panel is because I'm really interested in the way that they're utilizing coaching, not necessarily the work that they do with or have done with IECL, but how they're thinking about coaching in terms of the changing workplace that we're in. So Rebecca Nakhle, if you could maybe wave the stunning artwork behind her. Rebecca is the Regional Education Capability Partner at TAFE New South Wales. And for those people outside of Australia that are unfamiliar with the term TAFE, it stands for Technical and Further Education. So it's a vocational education and training provider. And I think New South Wales is the biggest in Australia. Is that right? Rebecca is an IECL Level 1 certified coach, and together with the TAFE capability team is partnering with IECL to help build organisational-wide coaching capability and cultivate a coaching culture. And this is part of a broader transformational leadership initiative. Rebecca is based in Sydney. Is that right, Rebecca? Great. Because I haven't met Rebecca until today, so it's very lovely to actually see you on the screen. My second guest, Skye Abernathy. You'll notice her with the red chairs and the Johnson & Johnson behind her. Skye is the HR leader, pharmaceuticals, Asia Pacific for Johnson & Johnson. IECL Level 3 accredited coach and a champion of coaching across the business. I was really keen to have Skye on the panel as she's currently rolling out a coaching leader initiative right across Southeast Asia. And working with many leaders for sitting in service of the growth of the business. So I was really struck by that, the BAE kind of coaching sits in service of, which is music to my ears. And Skye is based in Singapore with me here.
Right. Nice to see you, John. Looking forward to the session today.
Good. Thank you. And my third, but by no means my least, guest, Rajesh Hurkat from Mattel. Rajesh is the Senior Director HR for Manufacturing at Mattel. His role covers manufacturing operations in China, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and includes a workforce of over 25,000 people. IECL and Mattel have done a variety of projects together, from one-on-one coaching and team coaching and other kind of coaching skills or upskilling leaders in various coaching approaches, and even kind of looking at exploring kind of how Mattel can build more internal coaching capability and in the kind of manufacturing and operations, which is always an interesting place to go because it's often seen as more of an office or kind of white collar place. But Rajesh is here and he's based in Hong Kong. So thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time. So if we get onto the topic here, and maybe if you can just move the next slide along, Tony, please. So there's 3 questions that I'd like to explore today, and it will be very much a discussion and hopefully probably very much music to Charity and Andy's ears. It will be less of me talking and more of Skye and Rebecca and Rajesh talking and sharing their insights. But everyone has experienced a change in the way that we work. Obviously, COVID was part of it, but there were things that were happening before that anyway. It was COVID, I think, probably sped things up, and so the hybrid or flexible work arrangement is certainly one of them. But there are a lot of other changes, and I'd be really keen to hear from each of my guests today around what changes they're noticing in the way people are working. And once we've heard from that, I'd like to then ask the second question in broad kind of sense, not necessarily coaching related, but what strategies have you employed to support these? Because coaching obviously is part of the picture, but it's definitely not all of the picture. But to bring it back to organizational coaching and certainly how we apply organizational coaching concepts and approaches, I'd love to hear from you in terms of your view and the different ways that you've been using coaching. What role, or do you think what role coaching could play or has played in helping to manage the changes and how we're working today, and also looking to the future? I mean, obviously, coaching's more of a long-term thing. We're looking into how we can improve performance or well-being or other organizational outcomes. And so what might be the changing role that coaching can play as we move forward? But let me just start with the first question. And so thank you very much. So we've got my very colourful guests here. I feel quite kind of plain and kind of black and white here, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm happy to be upstaged by Skye and Rebecca. So in terms of the first question, what changes are you noticing in the workplace? Rebecca, why don't we start with you and just kind of a quick share of what you're noticing at TAFE New South Wales?
Oh, thanks, John. So, as you mentioned, we're the largest provider of vocational education and training in the country, and COVID has very much changed the way that we work. However, for us here on the east coast of Australia, the pandemic also came on the back of a horrific bushfire season in late 2019. We've had flooding along the east coast of the state, and we've also had a consolidation of 10 registered training organisations within TAFE down to one RTO. So the business was already sort of shifting, I guess, prior to the pandemic. And I guess what I'm trying to say is we're already pretty busy learning how to collaborate and navigate working with dispersed teams as we move to a statewide approach. So I think that set us up pretty well in terms of collaborating during COVID. But I guess the two key shifts that I've observed over the past 12 months for us as a business is sort of accelerated program development and the upskill to support that, and a shift almost organisation-wide through necessity to flexible work. So when the pandemic hit last year, we had a 4-week pause in delivery for our students to get together a whole lot of online and connected delivery resources. And the time frame was something that was pretty unheard of in TAFE. We normally take quite a long time to get our programs right and compliant, but we just didn't have the luxury of time. So we had thousands of teachers here in TAFE. Many hadn't delivered online before. We didn't necessarily have the required equipment. So there was a significant investment in teacher training and additional ICT support that was needed. And what that pandemic sort of did for us was it drove innovation and collaboration statewide that we'd been, working to before. But I guess COVID gave us an opportunity to expedite that process. And we're very much now in a place of, new ways of learning and working. So it's very, very timely for us that we've come on the coaching journey, because people are very comfortable with technology now. They're very open with learning. There's this renewed passion and enthusiasm that we're seeing in our workforce, where people have really broken down those silos and are happy to, call out to other people throughout the state. So I think that's sort of setting us up, quite nicely. And the product that we're delivering is, very much enhanced as well. I think also, we're a dispersed organisation, so we're very well set up now to reach our students in regional Australia. But that also means that as a workforce, coaching has no boundaries for us. So, I'm based in Sydney, but I could be coaching somebody that is in Kingscliff or out at Broken Hill, and everyone's quite comfortable being on the screen and doing that. Whereas I think 12 months ago, if we had have proposed to people, hey, we're going to appoint you with a coach and, going to meet online, people would feel a bit, sort of icky around that. So, that's, I guess, served us well. And I guess the other change is that flexible, the uptake of flexible work. We planned to launch our Working Flexibly framework in September last year, but I guess what we didn't really anticipate at the time was that, working flexibly get a pretty good road test in advance by necessity. So, many of our staff are currently working from home. So in Sydney, we're in a lockdown again, but I think that will have changed the way that we work forevermore, because when business does return to normal, I'm not really sure what that will look like moving forward.
Yeah, I think everyone's asking that question. What is normal like, or whatever. I love that the realization around the distributed workforce, and actually now we can kind of work with anyone wherever, and so actually improving or including a more collaborative kind of approach. Lovely, thanks, Rebecca. Rajesh, I might pull you in. I always love working with people at Mattel because they've got the coolest toys that kind of sit behind them. And I think I can see Batman. I think I can see Elsa there. So there's kind of a few. And there's what's his name from Toy Story?
There.
Yeah, Barbie.
Toy Story. Yes.
Barbie's got to be there too. So Rajesh, welcome and thank you for joining us today from Hong Kong. Ask you the same question. What changes have you noticed in the way people are working or in the workplace?
Hey, thanks, John, for having me as part of this panel. It's my pleasure to be here. A couple of things, as you introduced, I come from the manufacturing world, and being part of the essential category, we had to ensure our plants were running full capacity. Last year, where we need to ensure our products are reaching on the shelf and parents can buy for their kids. And so having a large workforce and with the COVID situation outside, we had to really go very fast in building the right protocols and ensure people feel very safe. It went to the extent where people felt more safe in our manufacturing site than outside, because it was so well designed and controlled internally. But again, coming to the people development part, I think we have been on the journey of revamping the way we train our people, sheer the size of organization, and there are a lot of processes which are very unique to our industry. But I would say the COVID really helped us in many ways, in terms of accelerating that journey. Earlier, for example, we had few internal experts who will go around different manufacturing sites to go and train people. It used to be all in the classroom, very much confined to that specific location. But with COVID coming in, people getting comfortable with this online meetings, online trainings, we experimented it. It's not very common in the manufacturing world to run some of these trainings online. We did that, and we really leveraged to bring our leadership team from different locations together for various learning interventions, and it opened up a completely different world of opportunities, because they got so well connected. They started talking about their challenges. They started learning from each other. So we built internal learning communities, which was very much content, which was very much restricted to the specific locations. Now it was across our global manufacturing site. So that was a big, aha moment and a positive outcome of it. The other thing what we have done is, as I said, people have been really trying to really manage and handle the entire COVID situation, their own challenges. So one of the things that we did very early last year was really integrating the 4 elements of wellness, mental, social, emotional, physical, in how we engage our people. So we didn't do anything, as an add-on. It was very seamlessly integrated, because in a manufacturing setup where you have a large number of people doing the same monotonous process, you need to really ensure they have a lot of fun. And so we brought in a lot of elements about mental wellness, and some of our markets where COVID was, or the situation was really challenging in terms of Southeast Asia. We had to really ensure the the employees are supported. We support their families, and so I think that really worked well. In fact, we had our highest ever engagement score last year, in spite of all the challenges that we were addressing in-house. And so again, I would say the COVID has, we have really leveraged as an organization to connect people, to develop our people. In fact, we rolled out Manufacturing University, which has a 2 years curriculum like any other university courses for our different layers of leadership. So again, I think some of these interventions, including the coaching, the work that we did with you and the IECL, I think we have been, again, as an organization, trying to strengthen the servant leadership culture. I think coaching is a very integral element of it, where we want our leadership team across all the levels, including the frontline leaders who work directly with our workers to ensure they are not very directive in nature. They are really there to generate a lot of ideas. We let people be empowered, and and again, that has really helped us to strengthen our even Kaizen culture that you will hear in the manufacturing world. So, we had thousands of ideas, innovations coming from our organization. So again, I would say it's a journey that we have started, some time back, and it's only going to get accelerated as we move ahead.
Fantastic, Rajesh. It's good to hear that a company like Mattel that has so many fun things actually incorporates fun in the culture. I kind of like that. Great, thank you, Rajesh. And Skye, last but not least, what changes have you noticed at Johnson & Johnson or Janssen, where you work over the last, I don't know, like I said, could be 18 months with the pandemic. That's kind of the obvious ones, but there's certainly changes coming through before that. What have you noticed?
Yeah, thanks for the question, John. And I think very common themes to Rajesh and Rebecca. We've seen considerable change in the landscape of our organisation over the last 18 months. So despite the very challenging environment, our business has shown incredible resilience. And we've seen really strong sales growth across J&J globally, so 27.1%, resulting in $23.3 billion as we closed for the Q2. So, but what we have seen in terms of, the need for our business is that it's very clear that the level of complexity in our organisation has really increased. And, the resilience, and the result of our business has really been driven and supported by our leaders of the organisation. But, the journey that we are on, we are constantly asking more from our people leaders across the organisation. So, we take very seriously, our responsibility for making sure that we are equipping our people leaders with the tools to solve for the complexity, the ambiguity of the current landscape, and also to have the courage to lean in and to really, lead through these really difficult times. I think one of the key messages or the key observations, that we are seeing is there's an increasing need for empathetic leadership. And, when we think about empathetic leadership, it's really about having the ability to understand the needs of others and really tapping into what challenges are they facing, based on mental health, work-life balance, lockdowns, all of those kinds of challenges that we are seeing across the globe and in our region, in particular right now, in certain countries in Asia Pacific. So we have been focused on, building coaching capabilities in Janssen in Asia Pacific. And I think this really supports the need for that empathetic leadership. So whether we're focused on a business priority and a business deliverable where we are serving our patients, or whether we are focused on our colleagues and their mental health and how we can support them, from an energy perspective. So our people leaders have done an incredible job in leading. There's an incredible level of fatigue, I think, out there across our organisation, from not being able to get the energy from their colleagues and, our healthcare professionals. But, our job is to really equip our people leaders to be able to serve our colleagues across the region.
Thanks, Skye. I think, Skye and Rajesh, you kind of mentioned, well-being and mental health, and I guess I'd be keen to just have a quick discussion about that, because, so much information and even some research is showing that there's a huge mental health kind of burden or strain, whether it's from fatigue and kind of languishing and missing your peers, to, I guess, more serious concerns. But is that something that you're noticing in the workforce? And I'd be keen to kind of maybe hear what you've been doing. Maybe Rebecca, if we can cycle back to you, is that something that you're noticing? And
absolutely. You know, people are tired. Some people are burnt out. Everyone's, you know, it's a very personal issue, mental health, and people deal with it in their own way. But certainly at TAFE, we're trying to make those wellbeing conversations the norm that leaders have with their teams, or that peers have with one another. And in fact, we're staging a 2-day wellbeing event next week to coincide with Are You OK Day, which is a national conversation initiative here in Australia. And we've pulled that together pretty quickly. Sort of someone came up with the idea about 3 weeks ago, and we're like, oh yeah, we can do that, because you know, we've survived COVID. We're very agile now. So next week we're doing two full days with a whole range of things. Like, we've got some keynote speakers, we've got yoga classes, cooking classes, and the idea around it is to give our employees a break, to come along, to immerse themselves in these mind, body and spirit sessions, but also recognising the fact that many people are working from home at the moment in New South Wales. They're more than welcome to bring their children and their partners along as well. So we think it'll be a really lovely celebration of wellbeing next week.
Yeah, nice. Rajesh, you mentioned safety, and obviously safety is a it's a core tenet of any kind of manufacturing element. But you said that easily extended to the well-being space. What extra did you do to ensure? Because 25,000 people spread across the region is a huge responsibility. It's a huge task to kind of get a sense of that. How did you do that?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. And again, John, we all have learned this. This is something we're facing it for the first time. So a few things we did. One is, we did realize that most of our employees' children were learning from home. So how do we, and they were also undergoing the stress of not able to go back to the school. So we did a lot of interventions to bring those kids together online, did talent shows, help them make new friends online, so something which they had not done, in a few months, not going to the school. That's what we did. The other thing we did, some of the markets that we operate, as you see, the vaccination, the vaccine availability has not been very great, especially in Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia. So we really work with the government bodies and, really ensure that we make it available. So, as we speak, our 85% of people have really got, in our plans have got the vaccine. So I think that brought a lot of mental, I would say, safety feeling in the people, because they know that vaccine can really protect them from COVID, while we have to still navigate this for another 12, 18 months. We don't know how long. The other thing we did was we gave, again, in the world that we are in, we have a lot of fun every day. If you have to visit our any of our factories, you'll see people are really celebrating, having fun, making toys, right? So because of COVID, we had to keep a lot of social distancing, COVID protocols. So we had to really find a creative ways to have that fun, people. And a lot of people, a lot of our operators who stay away from their family, in, let's say, in China or Thailand, they have not visited their families for long. So how do we help them celebrate those festivals, those special occasions, make them special for them so they're not missing their families? So I think some of those things has helped to strengthen their connect, strengthen that entire family feeling that we had, saying that Mattel really cares for them. And that has been a great way for us to ensure that, our people are continue to stay engaged. And, we had one of the best years last year in the way we have delivered our business in manufacturing, and like the way we are doing it this year. So again, for us, everything is people. And I think some of those things really work for us.
Nice. It seems this crazy paradox that, I'm not too sure about TAFE in terms of performance, but Rajesh, Mattel, and Skye with Johnson & Johnson, you've mentioned that actually it was a bumper year, and at IECL we had a great year as well. Yet, people are fatigued. We had probably more stresses, more unusual stresses than we've ever had before. So it's kind of like, well, how does that kind of work? But Skye, what did you do from a mental health perspective for your leaders or the more general population?
Yeah, I think Johnson & Johnson takes mental health very seriously. So we have we've seen lots of activity in this space. So there's been a really strong communications plan to make sure people are informed in terms of what are their benefits, what's available to them, what can they access. So from policies through to, flexible working, parental leave, all of those elements that people can lean in on during these, uncertain times. Through our Human Performance Institute, we've seen Energy for Performance, which is a real focus on how we use our energy management. So physical, emotional, spiritual energy as we come to work. We've also been doing a lot of work around purpose and really having people understand what is their clear purpose, because when you can understand your clear purpose and link that to your role, it actually becomes much clearer in terms of what you're aiming for and how you bring attention and spend energy in that space. We have done pulse checks with our employees, across the organisation globally to make sure that we're checking in. Sometimes we get feedback that we're over communicating in terms of, what's available. Sometimes we get feedback it's not enough. We've also really lent heavily on our partners. So our employee assistance program, we have an employee resource group that really supports our mental health and normalizing that in the workplace and bringing awareness to that. So lots of activities to support, and we've seen people being able to move through mental health challenges, and then where we've actually need to be able to help support them further. So it's a really tough space. And I think to Rebecca's point is that we don't know when it's going to end. So I think that is a challenge, in terms of how do we have enough kind of energy to get us to the end point when we don't know what that is going to look like. But ultimately, the future of work is changing. We use this term, the new normal. We are working towards identifying what that new normal looks like, and how do we bring people back and engage them in our organisation, which I think is probably a challenge for many of us that we will look to face in the next 12 to 18 months.
I was going to say, if you know what the new normal is, could you just let us know, because that'd be really handy.
We're trying to model it, guess it. I think we have aspirations of what we want the new model to look like, but it is going to be trial and error. It's going to vary very differently across the Asia Pacific region, and even globally. So I don't know what the answer is just yet, John. Thankfully, we've got some very clever people working on that.
Oh, good. Well, let me know when you find out. That'd be great. So look, I'd like to move the conversation to coaching, because all of your organizations are embracing coaching in a variety of ways. And I guess, when we start to talk about kind of moving forward, the new norm, high levels of engagement, the importance of well-being. Obviously, you've had a bumper year last year, that just kind of sets the expectation for another bumper year this year. So there's kind of performance pressures. But I'd love to hear from you in terms of how, what role you see coaching playing in helping the organization to navigate to the new norm, to find out what the new norm is, to holding people long enough until you find out what the new norm is. But to hear from you in terms of the coaching kind of specific strategies that you've got. And Rajesh, I might circle back to you in terms of what Mattel's doing. Obviously, a large global organization, and you've got a large regional organization that you look after. But what are your thoughts in terms of how coaching can support Mattel to continue to thrive and be successful?
Sure. No, I think a couple of things we are trying to work on, John, on the building a strong coaching culture. And again, you cannot have same approach for different layers of the organization. So let's say our the top leadership team, we are helping them to really help them in their own coaching journey. How do they see their roles evolving in the new world, and also some of our high potential talent, how do we accelerate their leadership journey? So that's one thing we are doing for that pool. For our middle management level, we are trying to make it a more scalable model, because the number that we're talking about, and we have a fairly large training organization in Asia. So we are trying to build that internal capability, working with organizations like yours to really say that, how can we take it to larger organization, make it a scalable model. And when it comes to our frontline leaders, again, our expectation from them, is very different at different layers. Again, there is a common elements, which goes around across all the layers, but there are, how, let's say, for example, the frontline leaders need to be really coaching the people on the moment. You are in the middle of an operation. If there is an issue, the typical approach is to really, be very directive. We are helping them to build our coaching muscle, saying instead of being directive, of course, if there is a crisis, you want them to be directive, but if not, how can you start getting comfortable by asking questions? Use those as a learning moments for your team. So I think it's something which is a journey, and really, something that we have started, and we are already seeing some initial benefits of it. And I sense, it will only help us to improve our engagement of our people, more so, when people are undergoing the stress externally, in the world outside the organization. And, we want to ensure that, when they come back to the work, they feel that they are being respected, they are heard, and coaching is a very important part of it. So I think those are a few things we are doing for us, John.
If I can just double click on your answer there for a bit, like scaling is, there was some questions in the last session about how do you scale? Obviously, employing an executive coach like me is not a way to scale. Like that's it's expensive. It just doesn't work. But I'm curious about your frontline leaders, particularly in the kind of factory situation that many of them operate in. Because coaching's kind of been seen more of a white collar type activity, but here you've got people in a very different environment. How is that landing, and how are you scaling it at that level?
So I think we have always looked coaching as spending an hour or 90 minutes just going through in detail, very organized. And that's the kind of format will not work with the frontline leaders. We need to really understand that they are a very different group of people. So what we have been trying to do is to really help them understand the concept of it, make it like a bite size, something that they can practice. So again, helping them with some basic techniques. And then one of the ways we have done is the managers who lead them, we've ensured they understand this very well, because if they don't experience themselves the coaching conversations from their leaders, we cannot expect them to really practice it. So again, in my experience, if you really want to build a culture, you need to look at all the layers of the organization for it to become like a culture of the organization. Just doing it for a few section of people for few people, it may not really percolate down to the organization. So I think that's what is working. Again, these are early days. Again, we need to understand the profile of these people. They are always under tremendous pressure of delivering every shift. So they are seeing the benefit of it. They are seeing that a lot of ideas are getting generated, and now it's becoming like a virtuous cycle where they want to practice it more. So that's a journey for us.
Oh, that's great. That makes my heart sing when I hear that people everywhere across the organisation. Rebecca, maybe if we can hear what TAFE New South Wales is doing with coaching. There was a question when you first started sharing around, are you coaching clients, students, or staff? So maybe if we start with that and maybe then kind of go out in terms of what else are you doing in terms of coaching at TAFE New South Wales?
Oh, thanks, John. So our coaching approach is very much in its infancy. Our first cohort of level 1 coaches were trained up in August last year, and we were actually one of the very first groups, I believe, that IECL did completely online due to the pandemic. So we did three days online, and I guess we partnered with IECL in the hope of driving a coaching culture throughout the organisation as part of a broader engagement strategy. So we're coaching staff, so we don't coach students. The approach is, I guess, we're wanting people to feel invested in, and what we're really hoping to get to is that we make quality conversations part of what we do every day. So there's that formal coaching aspect, that sort of coach counterpart relationship, but there's also what we're hoping to generate is a bit of a buzz around those quality conversations, and I guess asking more questions and giving less direction. But what we've actually found, so although we're not coaching students, our coaches have actually found, those that are in teaching roles, that those coaching questions are really useful in the teacher-student context as well. So I think, even though it's only been a really short period of time, I've already seen the benefits that taking that coaching approach in the work we do has had. And we're a little bit like Rajesh, we're trying to permeate the culture at all levels. So it's not just a leader-led initiative. We've, in my what we call our coaching champions network, so our initial cohort, we've got people from like quite senior executives to a head teacher level. We've got some organisation development professionals. We've got some of our Aboriginal employment advisors. So it's not just confined to one particular section of the business. And as I said before, that really with the uptake of technology, there is no boundaries. And it's a little bit like what Joanne said in the last session before ours around creating those tiny pockets in the business, and then they all start to mesh, and it creates that momentum. And that's what we're starting to see. So like in my team alone, I'm in the organisation development and talent management team. I think what coaching has done for us is it's created that safe space and that sort of shared language around test and learn. And we've very much shifted from a team of advice givers to asking more questions. So, my line manager does that with me. I do it with my peers. When they come to me now with an issue, I would have always just told them what to do in the past because I'm full of advice. But now I'll ask some coaching questions, and we've seen that shift. I've seen the confidence build, and that's happening in pockets throughout the whole business.
Great. And I mean, you mentioned confidence, you mentioned engagement and kind of ideas and even like the collaboration and the quality conversations. What are some of the measures that you're using to kind of gauge how coaching is taking hold and the difference that it's making in TAFE New South Wales?
Sure. So we're testing out an evaluation model. So we have got something in place where we're trying to measure people, so counterparts, where they see themselves sitting at the commencement of a coaching relationship in terms of what they want to get out of it, where they want to grow, but also where they see themselves aligning with the public sector capability framework. Mm-hmm. And then we measure that at the end of the coaching relationship as well. So that's one measure. But really, a lot of it is very anecdotal, if I'm honest, at the moment. It's that sort of qualitative data, those success stories that we're hearing around the business, about John who got the courage to step into a leader role because he'd, found the gold within himself. Yeah. So there's those sorts of stories. We're getting lots of people we're starting to run sort of coaching workshops. So they're just like an introductory 1 hour. This is what coaching is about, and here are the benefits. And so we're getting a lot of uptake. People are coming along, they're listening to those sessions, and then they're putting their hand up to be coached. Or you just see that light bulb moment in the room where people go, oh, hey, maybe I do talk too much and I could ask some more questions, and this coaching approach could really work for me. So yeah, it's a little bit of quantitative, but quite a bit of qualitative evaluation at the moment.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear Nikki and Joanne from BAE talk about the ROI specific direction from the executive was the anecdotal, more qualitative feedback that they were getting, and that was enough for them to kind of okay the expense and the time that it was taking, which is kind of a nice thing, because ROI in coaching is always, in organisations, has always been a challenge to pinpoint it to the coaching conversation or the work that the counterpart does in the coaching. Great, thanks, Rebecca. And Skye, what about you? You've got a different kind of initiative, I guess that you're rolling out. But how's coaching playing a role in terms of your business?
Yeah, thanks for the question, John. So maybe I've got two answers for you. So at an enterprise global
We love
level,
a high achiever.
At an enterprise global level, we are looking at opportunities around how we weave coaching into all elements of our organisation. So I think that sounds like the journey that Rebecca and Rajesh are on. So I think we still have a way to go in that space, but I think we have a very strong business case around why it's important to bring coaching in at multiple levels in the organisation. But for me personally, when we look at our leadership development programs, they only touch around 18% of our employees. So integrating coaching into the way we work is really focused on getting the best out of our employees. So creating agile leaders that can ask those powerful questions to our employees that can inspire and engage. So in 2019, we kicked off the Janssen Capable Leader Program. And this was an evidence-generated program where we surveyed up to 1,000 of our people leaders' direct reports. And we got some pretty clear data and insights into what our employees felt that was missing. And when we looked at that data overall, we saw that coaching being a parenting skill to many of the activities that our leaders do. So whether it's coaching for performance or coaching for development or coaching for feedback was missing. So one of my key initiatives in Janssen is driving a Supercoach program, which is, again, where we're touching 1,000 of our people leaders across the region. It's a region-led initiative, but it's implemented at a local level. It is supported by our performance management conversations. So we have 5 formal conversations throughout the year, and we've anchored Supercoach on that. And maybe I'll talk about the downside of that as we kind of move through that process later. But, we have seen, to your point, Rajesh, we have asked our senior leaders in the region to role model coaching so people can see and feel what it looks like. We invited John as a master coach to join us to show what good coaching looked like, because we wanted to bring a level of realization to our leaders that perhaps you think you might be coaching, but actually when you see what great coaching looks like, there may be greater opportunities for you to enhance your coaching skills and build your coaching capabilities. So we're on a journey to go to bring deeper level of competency across the organisation. We see it as a benefit to our employees. I think of my own coaching journey, not only using it in the workplace, but using it in my everyday life. I think we see it as a benefit and maybe as a part of our employee value proposition that as we take coaching on a much broader scale, we're maybe having a greater impact on society overall. So not just for the work we do in Janssen. So yeah, it's an exciting place to be. I think what's really unique about our Supercoach program is that it is business led. So our business leaders truly believe that through coaching capabilities, we will be able to deliver on our business results. So enabled by HR, which is where I sit in the organisation, but a really strong ownership from our business.
How critical do you think it is that it's owned by the business? I mean, I've got my own opinion on this, but I'll let you answer that first, Skye. What difference does it make?
Yeah, I think for me, again, when we embarked on this journey, we didn't want it to be seen as another HR initiative. It was really an enabler, or in service of, you know, John, you mentioned that in the very beginning, in service of meeting our business objectives, in service of, you know, meeting your objectives of your purpose. You know, that's how coaching can really support you know, both the people leader and the employee on that journey. So for me, I think the link to business is critical. And then obviously, you know, the enabling functions like communications, HR, our commercial excellence organization, you know, really become the energy behind that. And then it's the willingness from our people leaders to lean in, feel vulnerable around, oh, you know, maybe I thought I was doing it well, but actually maybe I'm not doing it so well. So it truly is a business effort.
Cool, thank you. So look, we've got just under 10 minutes left, 9 minutes by mine. So that's 3 minutes apiece. I'm wondering whether you could, I guess, wrap up for us, and if there's anything that you think coaching, like you'd like to see it to do, or you think you're kind of planning for it to do. So really thinking about the possibility or the potential of coaching, or it might be some advice for people who are listening in similar positions to you that kind of want to get started with bringing coaching in. But just a couple of minutes to wrap up. So Rebecca, let me start with you, and then Rajesh and Skye. And if there's any questions, please put them into the chat. So Rebecca, what's your kind of wrap up comment?
I think for us, we've got a number of initiatives that we're planning and putting in place in the next 12 months to drive that coaching culture. And I feel quite hopeful that we'll succeed in that, because we've got that executive level support, and there's a very clear you know, passion and energy and commitment from the people that we're working with. So, you know, there's a number of different things that we'll try and do, as I mentioned, attacking it at all levels over the next 12 months. And we're looking forward to working closely with IECL on that journey. I think that's been valuable in the last session talked about the supervision. We've just finished off an action learning, you know, a mastery series to sort of try and cement our learning. And I guess my advice will call out to others who want to go down this journey is that's a very, very valuable piece, because it's a difficult road to go alone, I think, without some sort of professional assistance in that regard. But yeah, look, really looking forward to the journey. There are a couple of, you know, challenges that we're finding. So the balancing that the formal coaching and the, you know, the quality conversations as part of what we do every day piece is a little bit tricky. We're not really set up to, you know, we're all coaches on top of our other roles. So I work in all development. Someone else might be a teacher. Somebody else might be working in finance. So trying to find that balance between, you know, investing in coaching and being in service of the counterpart and setting up those formal relationships with so many other deliverables is a little bit of a challenge that I think we'll have to give some more thought to over the next 12 months, you know, and if we're to potentially grow our pool of coaches. But yeah, look, some very exciting things on the horizon for us.
And Rebecca, if I can just ask another question. In terms of the changing world, so you know, the way that you deliver your programs has fundamentally changed, and with New South Wales in the state that it is, it's not going to change anytime soon. Yeah. But what's the role of coaching in terms of how it's supporting, you know, the navigating your way through these changes, or embedding some of the changes, or even coming up with new ideas as your kind of world change? What's the role of coaching in that?
I think for I said is we're putting the I wouldn't say it's decision making, but we're empowering the people that we work with to come up with their own solutions. Whereas before things were a little bit more leader-led, or in terms of program rollout, people were you know, given direction on what they need to do. People are coming up with their own solutions. They are confident to step forward. People are you know, empowered or taking direction of their own career development. We're tying coaching in with our you know, our performance development review program. So I think coaching will have a place moving forward in in terms of that sort of upskill or capability build, you know, for our people.
And probably just in the agility that's required to kind of navigate your way through, because, you know, yesterday doesn't necessarily, or tomorrow doesn't necessarily look like yesterday. And so how do you kind of...
Absolutely, and helping people to come to terms with that, for sure.
Cool. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Rajesh, what about yourself? How's coaching kind of supporting Mattel moving forward, and as you look forward to another cracker year this year, what's the role coaching's playing?
Yeah, no, I'll just keep it very brief. So a few things, you know, I think even Skye spoke about it. For us, the way we are driving it is a business initiative. It's not like one more HR initiative. And the second, you know, we are trying to demystify the entire coaching for the leaders, for them to experience for themselves, and trying to customize it, you know, for different sections of the organization, so that, you know, it is something which they can understand. And more importantly, you know, as I said earlier, we have created this learning communities across our locations. So, you know, there are a lot of success stories that people share with each other. You know, when, you know, a lot of people who learn, some may be able to really practice it very well. Some may really struggle to move to the new way of, leading people. So, you know, when they have their peers in the other locations able to practice it and it works for them, that's a stronger testimony of its value than someone from HR saying, no, it's a good thing to do. So again, they're creating the entire culture, community, where they are seeing the benefit. The role that I play is to really bring it on table, facilitate, you know, but I don't really drive it myself, you know. So really taking the side seat, not a driving seat. I think some of the things are really helping. And again, I believe that the COVID situation has really helped us to accelerate the entire journey, because that's what something, you know, the people were really looking forward to, saying, you know, give me some space to be myself, you know, allow me to express myself. And this coaching behaviors is really helping across the layer of organization to express more. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And Skye, maybe if you could just wrap up the conversation quickly, how do you see coaching contributing to Johnson & Johnson navigating its way through as the workplace has changed and changing?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see, you know, in our organisation that we democratise coaching, and that instead of maybe servicing the few, we service many. We see, you know, not only coaching from our people leaders, but we see peer coaching. You know, we see coaching as a culture and a mindset across the organisation. So I think, you know, that's a very exciting journey for us to go on as an organisation. We're a purpose-driven company, and I think coaching really services, you know, the purpose of serving our patients. So I think it's a very nice partnership. Thanks.
Fantastic. So just hearing, before Tony cuts me off, but she's still on mute, so that's okay. The confidence, the agility, the community, and the purpose are the things that jumped out from all of your conversations. But thank you very much for being on my panel. Thank you everyone for hanging out and listening. And I'll hand over to Tony now before she cuts me off.
Well, I don't think I can say anything further to add to that. Thank you again, all of you. A big round of applause. And if everyone can take themselves off mute and a round of applause, that would be fantastic. Thank you to Skye, Rebecca, Rajesh, and to John for hosting such a lovely session.